Something strange is happening to Perfect Parry, and it might have big implications for the future of Street Fighter 6. Before I explain all that though, just a reminder that we've got Elena and Season 3 fast approaching, and I'll be putting out a lot of videos in the near future breaking down all of the new changes. I'll be doing lots of Elena gameplay, so make sure to hit that subscribe button so you're the first to know when the new info drops. Quick refresher, if you didn't watch my last video, there was a playable build of SF6 Elena at EVO Japan, and although people weren't allowed to record footage, written reports from people who played the build started trickling in on day one. Most of the reports were about Elena specifically, but also people were using it as a chance to test the system mechanics for possible Season 3 changes. Now, this video was published after day one, but on day 2 of EVO Japan, even more reports started coming in, but this time the focus was on perfect parries, and these reports were very strange. Before I start though, I just want to remind everyone once again that all of these reports are from a test build, so number one, there is absolutely no guarantee these reports are accurate, and number two, even if the reports are accurate, there is no confirmation that the Season 3 update will be exactly the same as what we've seen, okay? This is your official pre-video gas leak warning. So, on Saturday, the first Perfect Parry reports start appearing. So thanks to Hi Fight for the translation on some of these. I saw one person saying that they cannot Perfect Parry drive impacts at all in the Elena build. That's never a good sign. I saw one person saying that's how gas leaks start. On the other hand, this tweet says that Perfect Parry drive impact and jump attacks are becoming like Perfect Parry a fireball. Doesn't trigger slow-mo. So, right now, the only way to trigger a Perfect Parry that doesn't cause the screen to freeze and slow down is on projectiles. But Hi Fight is saying there are some situations where Perfect Parry in the Elena build is not triggering the screen to slow down and freeze. It's doing like the instant Perfect Parry like it's a projectile, which is strange. So there's a lot of confusion here. Then followed by this. Another confirmation that Perfect Parry against jump attacks and drive impacts are changed to something like Perfect Parrying a fireball. So a lot of people initially thought they're getting rid of Perfect Parry as an anti-air. That was the initial assumption. A lot of people thought Perfect Parry anti-air is quite a common thing for people to complain about. So I think quite a lot of people were hoping it would be gone. And that was the initial assumption. But then things started getting weird. We started getting lots of contradictions. And Defeat Lee said, I can 100% confirm. You should never be saying I can 100% confirm on a playtest. But he says, I can 100% confirm the following. Perfect parrying jump-ins causes no perfect parry freeze. Perfect parrying DI still causes the freeze. So now it's even more confusing because the previous reports said DI was no longer a screen freeze on Perfect Parry. So then things get even stranger. Defeat Lee now says, I'm watching some Japanese players testing and I don't see a screen freeze after Perfect Parrying heavies. So now, now we're up to heavies, DI and jump-ins don't cause the screen to freeze. Followed by, I'm watching more Japanese players testing, I just saw a screen freeze Perfect Parrying against jump-ins. Could it be that they made the screen freeze timing one frame? I don't know what to believe anymore, lol. So, just to cap off this sequence of tweets, it's getting weirder. This account says that the new Perfect Parry is not like Perfect Parrying a fireball, it has more recovery frames, which is... that's odd because Perfect Parrying a fireball already has more recovery frames, so I don't know if that's just a mistake from Hi Fight. Followed by, Perfect Parry against crouch medium kick and crouch heavy kick freezes the screen, but Perfect Parry against stand heavy punch and stand heavy kick don't freeze the screen. Theory, one frame Perfect Parry or direction plus parry matters now. So, in summary, things were absolutely crazy. Some people were saying Perfect Parry no longer causes a screen freeze on jump-ins. Some people were saying it no longer causes a screen freeze on DIs. Sometimes it was heavy normals that weren't causing it. Sometimes it was light normals that weren't causing it. Everyone was reporting wildly different things. It was absolute chaos. And the only thing everyone seemed to agree on, the one point that lines up with every single report, is that something has changed about perfect parries, and under some unknown circumstances, perfect parry no longer causes a screen freeze. Sort of like how it works right now if you perfect parry a projectile. So that was the end of day 2. Absolute confusion from every direction, and nobody certain about what the hell was going on with perfect parries. So I decided not to make a video at that point because there was just nothing to go off. It was just absolute chaos. So I decided to wait for a bit more information, and day 3 rolls around at EVO Japan. And day 3 is the final day of EVO Japan and the last chance to figure out what the hell is going on with perfect parries. And after the previous day's chaos, a person named Yoro decided to focus their tests entirely on perfect parries. And this person also recorded their results in a very methodical way. They documented not only what was happening when they perfect parried things, but they also made sure to notate what directions were being pressed during the perfect parry attempts. And Hi-Fi summarized the results of the testing here. New info on perfect parry. Number 1, you have to hold back plus parry against non-low attacks, including jump attack / drive impact, to get the screen freeze perfect parry. And number 2, you have to hold down back plus parry against low attacks to get the screen freeze perfect parry. Otherwise, it will be the worst version of perfect parry. Okay? You guys all understand? Very straightforward? No, of course it's not. It's absolute gibberish. But I'm going to try my best to explain what this means. If you are confused by this, and I don't blame you at all if you are confused by this, I put together a little chart to explain how these reported changes would work in theory, if they are true, and that's a big if. I've put together 2 little charts here, one on the top left here and one on the top right. Now, the one on the top left here is basically an explanation in simple terms of how perfect parry works right now. This is the current perfect parry over here, rows A to D. And what I've done here is I've done 2 axes. On the top, we've got the aggressor action, i.e. what the attacking player does. And we've got the defender action going down, which is what the defending player does in response to it. So, as it works right now, if the attacker does a low strike, i.e. an attack with a strike hitbox, like a crouch medium kick, and the defender does down back plus perfect parry, the outcome is a perfect parry. As in the currently understood version of perfect parry, which has slowdown. It freezes the screen and you get a fat punish. So it works right now. Doesn't matter what direction you hold. So you'll notice here, whether it's down, back, or not even blocking at all and just tapping parry, against lows, you always get a perfect parry, and against mids and highs, you always get a perfect parry. The only situation right now where you don't get a screen freeze, what I'm from here referring as an imperfect parry, this is just a term that I invented to make this hopefully a little bit more clear, this is what happens right now if you perfect parry a projectile. So, doesn't matter what direction you press, you will get a imperfect parry, which is a parry that does not cause the screen to freeze. And also, if you guys don't know, right now, perfect parrying projectiles has more recovery. This is something that I don't know if everyone's aware of, but right now, if you perfect parry a projectile, you are not actionable until I believe 10 frames after the parry is complete. Whereas if you perfect parry and it freezes the screen, you are actionable instantly, like after 1 frame. So that's why I'm calling it an imperfect parry, because it's not just... A mistake people make is that they think projectile perfect parries are, like, identical to non-projectile perfect parries, when actually they have a lot more recovery. You cannot take an action after perfect parrying a projectile right now for 10 frames. So, with that little catch-up on how perfect parries work right now, which I'm sure a lot of people probably didn't even know that about projectiles, here's how it would work with the theoretically reported changes from the Elena build on the right-hand side. I'm just going to zoom it out a little bit. If you hold down back and perfect parry a low, you will still get a perfect parry. Nothing will have changed. However, if you are stand blocking and you perfect parry a low, so you're standing, you're holding back and perfect parrying, and your opponent does like a crouch medium kick, in this new theoretical scenario, you will now get an imperfect parry, the same kind of parry you would get on a projectile. So no screen freeze, and also 10 more frames of recovery. If you're not pressing any direction and you perfect parry, once again, you will get an imperfect parry. So the only way that you can get a screen freeze on a low is if you are holding down back plus perfect parry. So it follows blocking logic, basically. If your opponent does a mid or a high, and for the purposes of this video, just so you know, when I say mid, I'm using the Street Fighter definition of mid, i.e. an attack that you can block high or low. If you now hold down back and you perfect parry a mid or a high, you will get an imperfect parry. The only way to perfect parry a mid or a high would be to hold back plus perfect parry. So if you are not holding any direction, you can never get a screen freeze perfect parry under these scenarios. So that's basically the quick rundown of how it would work. And the outcome of this, if you're not sure like how this actually affects the game, is I think this is overall a pretty big nerf to perfect parry, if it is true. And I have to keep saying if it is true because this is all theoretical. Because if you consider a situation like this, let me jump into the game. So if you consider a string like this, Ken is pressuring me with jab, jab, jab. Okay? A lot of the time at high level play in this game, it's kind of devolved a bit to the point that people just start tap parrying a lot in strings while holding down back. Because you can just do this. You see? I just randomly tapped parry while I was crouch blocking, and I was rewarded with a back throw. You know, I might get a combo out of this. I might even be able to dump it into like level 3 and do a shitload of damage. Basically, I'm being rewarded with a huge amount of damage just because I decided to randomly tap parry in the middle of a jab string, which I don't think probably is ideal. So with the changes, if I'm holding down back and I tap parry, the screen would not freeze and give me 10 seconds to confirm a combo. And also, because of the 10 frames extra recovery on non-animation perfect parries, you would not be able to get a punish on a jab. Because in this game, almost no jabs have more than like 10 frames of recovery. So a string like crouch jab, crouch jab, crouch jab would only be perfect parryable if you stand blocked it. If you then switch to the stand block perfect parry, it's not as simple as you'll get punished for a low. You will still theoretically perfect parry lows, but you will get an imperfect parry on the low. So it's not a case that perfect parry now has like high-low counterplay. It's more like if you mix up your mids and lows, your opponent will still get perfect parries, but they will get inferior perfect parries that often will not lead to a combo. Does that make sense? This is my concern about this change, by the way. Like, I think perfect parry nerfs probably are necessary if they're going to get rid of throw loops. But my concern is this is going to be very difficult to explain unless it's more simple than we're assuming it is. Like, I almost hope that the way that it's been reported is not true. We'll see. This is all speculation, but we'll see. It adds more depth to perfect parry because right now there is way too much reward for just mashing parry in strings. So it does nerf perfect parry slightly, but I'm worried that it comes at the cost of being too complicated to explain to beginners, but we'll see. Again, all of this, I have to reiterate, everything I'm saying is under the assumption that these changes are true, which we have no way of knowing they are. I'm just kind of theory crafting right now. I'm just speculating. I guess while I'm speculating also, since we're currently in like pure gas leak mode, it might also be interesting to consider the possibility that perfect parry is being nerfed to compensate for a post-throw loop world, if I'm not overreaching a little bit. Whenever we talk about throw loops potentially getting removed from Street Fighter 6, everyone always says, if they get rid of throw loops, wouldn't perfect parry be too strong? Right? That's a very common response. So you could argue that perfect parry nerfs could potentially be evidence of throw loop removal. Now that's set a bit too copium. We're definitely deep in the copium right now. But I just want to put that possibility out there as a suggestion. Not saying that's what's happening, just putting that out there. A lethal dose of copium? It's going to be so funny when the actual update comes out and it turns out none of this is true and Capcom, just for a joke, decided to add a thing to the test build that says like 10% of the time perfect parries don't trigger a slowdown just for the Elena test build. That would be a good bit. If I worked at Capcom, I would do that. Some people also suggested that we might need to change the terminology of the slowdown perfect parry, but we could also go the route of calling what is a slowdown perfect parry, call that like a freeze parry or something like that, and then turn a projectile perfect parry into just perfect parry. I've said the word parry so many times in the last 10 minutes, it doesn't even sound like a word anymore. You know when you say a word too much, it stops sounding like a word? Is parry even a word? True perfect parry? Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan parry? Anyway, I'm going to zoom out here. That's how the reports are shaping up. I don't want to get too lost in the source here, but yes. The only thing I can say for sure is that we're all going to look incredibly stupid when the update drops in a few weeks' time, and some or none or all of this is true. That's the only thing I can say with absolute certainty. But yeah, I just thought it would be useful to kind of give a quick rundown for people who didn't pay attention over the weekend that something very strange has been happening with perfect parry. That's the kind of main thing to take away from this. Perfect parries are acting weird, and we'll see what happens. We will find out the truth soon. Let me know what you guys think of these changes down in the comments, and I will see you all in the next video.